Hi guys, my name is Jaslyn Pena and this is my presentation on dilated eyes and attractiveness. So starting off with why I chose this topic, I chose this topic because in the beginning of this semester when we were choosing the topics to research, this one just caught my attention because as a kid I always heard that our eyes dilate when we find someone or something attractive. And so I was just intrigued to learn why and why our bodies just naturally do that. So that is why I chose it. Moving on to my first website that I did research on. The research looks at how visual attractiveness affects our eyes, where our eyes move, suggesting that our brains process preferences without us even realizing it. And then the study also explored how attractiveness influences the choices that we make and what grabs our attention. And it shows that eye movements are not just controlled by what we think about consciously, but also by automatic, unconscious reactions. How does this topic relate to how people interact with the world? So attractiveness plays a critical role in forming first impressions. The tendency to focus on attractive features impacts how individuals are perceived and treated in social settings. When I first heard this, when I first read this, I automatically thought of the term pretty privilege. And basically what pretty privilege implies is that you will get better treatment for being considered like conventionally pretty. So better treatment might look like getting better job opportunities, or it could look like being treated more nicely than other people because again you're considered conventionally pretty. And then also, the media uses attractive visuals to grab people's attentions and influence their buying decisions, which I have definitely been a victim to. And what effect does the topic have on cognition and your field of interest? So after I graduate college, I am interested in joining the sonography field. And although this mostly focuses on medical imaging like ultrasounds, the idea of making choices without realizing it could affect how sonographers look at images. So for an example, when a sonographer is checking for problems in a picture, their brain might focus maybe on like the big issue at hand. They might see a problem in the picture, and while they're only focusing on that, they may be ignoring another problem in the picture, which they could be missing something important too. So that's that. And then an interesting fact is what we look at doesn't just show what we like, it can also change what we choose. This creates a cycle where seeing something makes us like it more, called the gaze cassette effect. So an example of that would be if you have two images that you're staring at, maybe it's two faces, and could be looking at them the same amount of time, but your eyes are going to be more drawn to the face you find more attractive. And that could, again, affect the decisions that are made. But similarly, when our pupils get smaller to see more clearly, it might help us like the things we focus on even more. That's one interesting fact. And then an interesting fact related to sonography is where we look can both show what we like and influence our choices in sonography. So this means that a sonographer, like as I mentioned earlier, might focus more on certain parts of an image because of unconscious patterns in how they see things, rather than strictly focusing on what's medically important. So again, they could be looking at the big problem, or they could be looking at the small problem. They're focusing on one thing and ignoring the other, which is not that great. But yeah, and then interesting fact number 3, when people make choices, they tend to look longer at the thing they will pick. As I mentioned earlier, that was called like the gazing cassette effect. Sorry guys, long name. That they would pick even if they didn't like it much at first. It means that where we look can not only show what we prefer, but also make us like something more just because we're focusing on it. And then it's important for others to know about this is because our eyes and attention can influence our decisions, and we can become more aware of what we're focusing on by paying attention to where we tend to look the most. We can be more thoughtful and informed in making our choices rather than being swayed by what catches our gaze. So, this awareness helps us avoid biases in decision making. And as someone who struggles with decision making, this topic really just helped me learn, and I think is going to help me make better decisions because I'm hyper aware of what's going on in my brain and then my eyes. So it's going to help me, I think, in the future in making decisions. But this awareness helps us avoid biases in decision making, ensuring we don't make choices just because of something is more visually appealing or catches our attention first. All right, and then to also go with why it's important for others to know, it is well known that our pupils dilate when something grabs our attention, as we have been learning, especially when we find something attractive. So this happens naturally and it can occur when we're looking at ads or commercials. Black Friday just happened, and I did a lot of Black Friday shopping. I was a victim to that. But this natural response can sometimes trick us into being drawn to misleading things, makes us more vulnerable to scams, and it's important to be aware of what catches our attention and ask ourselves if it's like truly beneficial or if it could lead to making poor choices. For example, the picture I chose, it's an easy scam, but everybody that visits this page gets $1,000. Who wouldn't want $1,000? So it's just an easy scam for this website to get your email to then scam you and send you a whole bunch of just useless things. So it's just easy. Not easy. It's important to be aware of what we're paying attention to. And our eyes might deceive us. So just important to be mindful. And then lastly, for why it's important for others to know, this effect goes beyond just like personal decisions. It can influence how we interact and judge others. When we unconsciously focus on certain traits like attractiveness, it can impact how we perceive people, form opinions about them, and even influence our relationships, whether in a social or professional settings. I automatically thought of when you were going in for interviews, sometimes we can, if we see someone, we automatically, our first impression of them may be good, first impression of them may be bad. So this bias just shapes how we make judgments, often without realizing it. And then lastly, for what's important to know when it comes to sonography. So as I just mentioned from the last slide, our eyes and minds can quickly form judgments in sonography. When we see a patient, we may jump to conclusions, even making medical assumptions too fast. So our eyes can sometimes deceive us, and what we think we should be looking for might not actually be there. This can lead us to overlook what's truly important because our eyes are focused on something else. So just to overall end this presentation, being aware of these biases is important in ensuring that the right areas are given attention to. Well, specifically speaking in sonography, that the right areas are given attention to during a scan. We have to be mindful of where our eyes are going to, what we're paying attention to, and it's important to look at the bigger picture at hand. That is the end of my presentation. Here are my references. Here are my references that I used, and I hope you guys enjoyed. Bye.